Alright everybody, welcome to, what's today's date? July 13th, precious hour. Crazy day. Anybody hanging out, please give me a heads up in the Q box. Let me see approximately how many we got. Some diehard metalheads out there hanging out. Yo, yo. Alright, anybody got the answer to the question before I get to what we're going to cover today? Wow, nice crowd today. Anybody got the answer to the question? What was gold? What was the patterning in gold that developed since July 1st? There is one specific time frame on the charts, like, you know, hourly versus 2 hour versus 4 hour, where it's more pronounced. Did anybody pick it up? It's not the first time we talked about it. That's a hint. Alright, let me give it to you again, Ted. What pattern in gold bullion on the charts, candlestick charts, developed since July 1st? And I'm not going to say which specific time frame chart, like, you know, 10 minute, 15 minute, hour, 2 hour, 4 hour chart. But there is one of those where it's the pattern is much more pronounced, and it was a very important pattern that developed. Textbook, matter of fact. It's like Jeopardy. I should have got the Jeopardy song up so I could play it in the background. That would be fun. Alright, I'll give it another 30 seconds. Alright, how about if I give you the view? Does anybody tell me now what we're looking at? What's the pattern in gold that developed since July 1st? Here's July 1st. Up. Yeah. I fell down one of those when I was a kid. That's the pattern. 10 more seconds. And it's textbook. Manhole. That's it, Ted. You got it. Stairs. The Swiss stair. And what makes the staircase different than Swiss stair is that the Swiss stair, it's really, you know, the dollar amount, the spacing is almost perfect in the moves. So with that in mind, we're looking at a 4-hour chart here. Looks sweet on a 2-hour chart, but on this 4-hour chart, what happens is we get this breakout down here. And we get this move up right here. Let's see, basically, let's say 1,500 bucks an ounce. All right, right around 1,500. And then we make a move up to about 1,515. So that's a $15 move. Then we go sideways for about 16 hours. All right, here's the bottom of this candle. I'm using the bodies. There's 1511, let's say 1510, just to keep even numbers, 1510, 1511. And what do we got up here? 1526. See that? So that's another 15 bucks. Ding, ding, ding. Now we go sideways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Almost 2 days. And what's the bottom of this candle? Let's say 1526. 1526. Let's go to the top of the candle. 1543. Pretty darn close, you think? Hell yeah. Alright, so we get a little sideways up action. A little unusual, but it still fits. And let's see, 46. Let me pick it here. Let's say 1550, 1551, right in that area. And another 15 bucks, right up to 1567, 68, another 15 bucks. So that is a classic Swiss stare. And when you combine that with the Commitment of Traders Report data that we were pulling last week, I was focusing more on the silver, but from the 21st through the 28th, we had short covering with commercials taking long positions. And what did they do? Started taking more long positions. So it's always fun to watch it play out. Alright, let's get to the choice audio videos today. Alright, sometimes you may not see the video move, but you're going to hear the audio. So just ignore the video and use your ears. There's Ron Paul today talking to Ben Bernanke. Always love the banter between them. And I've cut it down to the last question because it's just too much. I want to play something else. So here we go.
Very quickly, if you could answer another question, because I'm curious about this. You know, the price of gold today is $1,580. The dollar during these last 3 years was devalued almost 50%. When you wake up in the morning, do you care about the price of gold?
Well, I pay attention to the price of gold, but I think it reflects a lot of things. It reflects global uncertainties. I think the reason people hold gold is as a protection against what we call tail risk, really, really bad outcomes. And to the extent that the last few years have made people more worried about the potential of a major crisis, then they have gold as a protection.
Do you think gold is money?
No.
It's not money. Even if it has been money for 6,000 years, somebody reversed that and eliminated that economic law.
Well, it's an asset. I mean, it's the same. Would you say Treasury bills are money? I don't think they're money either, but they're a financial asset.
Why do central banks hold it?
Well, it's a form of reserves.
Why don't they hold diamonds?
Well, it's tradition, long-term tradition.
Some people still think it's money. I yield back. My time is up.
Thank you. This time recognize Mr. Powell, the
That was
subcommittee chair for 5 minutes.
Interesting.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All
right, got to get that to stop. Sorry about that. That was a very interesting exchange. Let's get on to the next audio. Alright, this is up on King World News. Anybody want to get the full audio? Sorry, I can't post it or, sites down. Just go to King World News, go to the broadcast tab at the top. And I'm going to play it beginning at 5 minutes, 10 seconds. Anybody knows James Dine? Smart cookie, been around a long time. So let's listen to what he's got to say for a bit. He's got a lot. He's going to talk about rare earths, Ginger. So yeah, I think you're going to like this. Here we go.
But beginners who are looking for one hot stock to buy have yet to learn that stocks move in groups, as per DUPAT, the Dines Wolfpack theory. And the challenge is to get the best few picks within that group, the concept of relative strength. So when gold stocks get hot, they all tend to rise. But then the fundamentals of each specific company become critical in choosing the best ones in which to invest as leaders on the upside. Another crucial fact is governmental unlimited printing paper mania. Unlimited because there's been no link to gold, which otherwise would have restricted it when the gold ran out, which is why the world's debts have risen out of control. And my Gold Bug book explained that more paper chasing the same goods results in higher prices by the iron law of supply and demand for paper, and it's called inflation. They are always followed by deflation to correct them. And the world is in a deflation now, especially in Japan. And you can see how prices are already dropping for cars, electronics, real estate, even wages, once sacrosanct wages. In fact, gold is not really going up. The value of paper dollars is going down. But it's not easy for beginners to envision that, but it's the truth. In fact, the whole world to me is on the verge of a final scramble to lock up hard assets as part of a flight out of paper money or photons in computers, whatever, into copper or iron mines. And China gets it by buying vast, humongous tracts of farmland in Africa, even America's Midwest, not to be resold at a profit, but to be held forever by China's government. Now, under everybody's very eyes, the system of capitalism is being transfigured into a monopoly game, out of paper into things. So that's logically where to invest for the future, in the Dime Butter's opinion. But nobody has enough money to buy all the assets in the world. So the question is, how do you select which ones? That's the challenge. I've already mentioned precious metals, but next might be rare earth metals, crucial for future technology. Wind turbines, electric cars, military missiles, cell phones, even night vision goggles. But China's already seized control of over 90% of the world's rare earth production, so the best I could do for you is to hunt for the rare earth stocks in the remaining 10%. And my subscribers are already beginning to make money on them, but it's probably still very early in the move because the general investing public is still unaware of rare earths, so we're still upstream from the herd.
We'll come back to rare earths, but I did want to tie in here with something you wrote in your latest June edition of TDL. Our conclusions are daring. We boldly predict that the U.S. Fed is now considering raising interest rates, obviously secretly, believe the unbelievable or not. When the rise occurs in coming months, it should induce the market to finally make a decisive move, although it is not obvious which way. Probably higher. A plunge by the U.S. dollar, expected by very few, would force the Fed to raise interest rates. Bonds should then drop while interest rates in the U.S. dollar rise. Silver would rejoin gold's uptrend, and many commodities decline, for example, cotton and sugar, end quote. There's so much in there, Mr. Dines, but what about gold, silver, and the fact that TDLers don't swim against the herd? They go against the herd, and that's certainly what you're saying here with this call for an interest rate hike.
Well, gold, of course, is your hedge against currency overprinting by governments. And the reason, as I said, is because the price of gold is not going up. The price of paper money is going down. And when that goes to a certain point, you have higher interest rates by the government. The government raises interest rates to buoy a currency, to make the currency more attractive. Right now, money is flowing to Brazil because they've got high interest rates. The money flowing into Brazil, though, is causing a higher currency, and that higher currency is bad for business in Brazil. So it's self-defeating. It's a very complex phenomenon, but it's all connected. You see, those who aren't beginners, if you have wealth or savings, you have the challenge of where to allocate your money. And I feel sad for people trying to live on the income of their capital, especially the elderly, because governments are specifically holding interest rates down, and this steals from one to give to the other in order to get reelected. And bond markets are therefore perilous because if municipal governments go bankrupt or the U.S. government really does stop paying interest on its bonds next month, well, the gory details are hardly necessary. They're all over the press. But in any event, I'm predicting that interest rates are ready to go up, and perhaps by a great deal. And bonds move counter-trend to interest rates. So it's not a good time to buy bonds because it's better to actually live off capital temporarily and wait for lower bond prices and their higher yields, of course, because bond losses might exceed currently insultingly low interest rates, 0.25% in Treasury bills. In fact, in some cases, Treasury bills are at a debit. You're paying people to hold your capital. This is really a tax on capital, and nor are money funds the answer, especially everybody says money funds if they're scared, but their interest rates are deceptively higher. They're like 2, 3, 4%. How could that be if T-bills are yielding 0.25%? And the answer is that they're investing in some very high-yield bonds. Some of it might even be in Greece's bonds. How can Greece afford to pay 28% interest? I mean, that's not going to work. That's worse than Bernie Madoff. If these bonds really take off on the downside because the Fed raises interest rates, I think you're going to see a lot of these bond funds crash. And it's a very difficult time to know what to do with capital. So I've taken the position that at some point when the dollar does drop, you're going to see Bernanke go in there and actually force interest rates up. they're lusting to do it. And the reason is, with all this paper they've printed, they're terrified of a hyperinflation. And they won't use the word yet. But mark my words, I'm saying this in front of a microphone. Later on, you look back, and this is the first mention of hyperinflation. They're all talking about, well, there's a risk of inflation. No, there isn't. The fact is, when you print that much more money, that is the definition of inflation. It's more paper chasing the same goods, prices go up. And the more you print, like they've just done with QE2, QE1, QE2, they don't even dare to use the right name for it. They're running the printing presses. It's not working. And the fanatics in the Washington economic establishment don't get it, that Keynesianism does not work. You cannot increase your debts to pay off your debts. You cannot print more money to cure all the money you've printed. And all this money printed is flooding out over the world and wreaking havoc everywhere. And other countries are beginning to fail because of it. China's in trouble also. They're printing the press. They're all running the printing presses. Mark my words, if you don't own gold, you will someday rue the day you decided not to buy them.
Whistleblower Andrew McGuire described the Chinese and their U.S. dollars as a person who picks up a handful of sand with open fingers. They can't get rid of the sand, or in this case, the dollar is fast enough. Is that part of why we're seeing the oceans of paper money going into the gold market?
All right, 2 more minutes of this, and we're going to get the charts.
Of course. And more than that, China's buying vast tracts of land all over the world. My reports are that they're all over the Midwest of the United States buying farmland. Do you think the crops grown in there are going to go to America? No, they're going to feed China. And what are you going to do about it when they do?
I know the listeners globally are going to want me to ask you about rare earths, Mr. Dines. We've had 2 developments here, a huge block of rare earths off of Hawaii. What does that mean for the rare earth market? And also a prediction that we're starting to see come true, that you made users of these rare earths starting to come in and buy. Mitsubishi purchases 10% of Lynas.
That's right. That was the big news with Mitsubishi realizing that they're not going to get any rare earths. These are 17 metals in the periodic table of elements that are crucial. They realize they're not going to get a stable supply here for the next few years, so they want to make sure they can begin getting them 3, 4, 5 years from now. And my prediction was that they're going to buy the actual miners outside of China, and that's why I've been recommending rare earth stocks, because they're going to come in big time to lock up their supplies of this stuff. So Mitsubishi announced that they're buying almost 10% of Lynas Corporation in Australia, which is a far-sighted move because they're out of business without it. Some other Japanese magnet manufacturers have actually decided to close their operations down in Japan and reopen them in China so as to get access. This is what China's done. They've taken control of the center of the chessboard, and our leaders have been too stupid and slothful to understand that there's a chess game going on. While China was locking up the rare earth metals of the world, now we suddenly realize that these are crucial elements and that we have to build stuff in China. Some people run around saying, we don't like nuclear. We're going to go to wind turbines. Yeah, really? Where are you going to get the 700 pounds of rare earth metals for each turbine? You can build them in China. They'll look over your shoulder and learn your technology, replace you with cheap labor, and kick you out. And then what are you going to do about that?
Yeah, what are you going to do about that? Alright, just so everyone knows, James, I don't, subscribe to his newsletter. I don't subscribe to any newsletters, actually, because you can pick up most of the information by doing your own diligence. But he called it 5 years ago on the rare earths. Yep. And I think Jers Chris can vouch for that, and he's not in the room today. But, yeah, James is a ray of sunlight, Carl. Exactly. So, let's get to, I'm going to look at the gold and silver chart real quick, and then we're going to get to the picks, because there's a lot of them, and you guys are going to have to remember to take your own notes tonight on the ones I call out, because I'm unable to post them on the STR page so that you can see them. So, let's get to the silver chart, and I'm going to go to the daily. Alright, I'm just going to take a pause here for about 15 seconds and let my audio catch up with my video. Okay. So we've got a MACD that's turned up and rising. We have volume that's been increasing. And over the long term, since the pullback, it's been steady, at least average, down here. You know, we had the spike and then the sell-off. You can just about, if you just eliminate all that noise and just go sideways, we're up in the average area, and we've been increasing for the past week, pretty much. Took out our wedge, got above all the moving averages. MACD continues up. And the last moving average that we took out this morning was the 85, actually. 85 was still hanging up there. Very nice candle today. So, you know, we might get a day or two to the upside, or tomorrow we could pull back halfway down this candle, pull back down to the 100-day moving average, or down to the top of that wedge line. That's possible. But what I'm expecting on the silver is to come up here and tap this 39.50 on a cash price. That translates into about 38.60 on the SLV. It's either going to go right to it, or it's going to pull back, chop sideways, and hit it. One way or another, it's going to hit it. All right, let me go to the gold chart, and then let me get to all the miners. Look at that MACD on the gold chart. These volume bars are not populating right. I don't know why right now, but that'll change. That happens sometimes on the Forex. So here's our daily. Very clean breakout. You can't argue with that. We're sitting at 1582. Actually, yesterday we closed on the COMEX at all-time high. Yesterday. At the COMEX close. Today we just continued that move. Alright, I'm going to close up this Forex. So if anybody's got any questions about Forex, hit me now before I shut it down, because it's eating up my Java resources here. Okay. Alright, quickly, let's look at the SLV daily on our New York charts on Schwab. We just got the crossover on the DI today. We got CCI momentum vertical. Stokes remain above. We have an increasing volume down there. And we broke out above all the moving averages yesterday and today. Today put the fork in the piggy and we took out the 300. So we got a little bit of action to keep us going here. Let's go to the gold, because this is a very interesting chart on the GLD. Look at that DI setup. We got an alligator tongue down there. Somebody's getting some dental work for sure. We got vertical CCI momentum. We got a Stoke breakout. We've got increased volume. Very good volume on GLD today. Better than average, actually. and we're into uncharted territory. So we got some lines to be drawn soon. Very pretty. Alright, let's get to the minor stocks. I'm going to go through these pretty quick, and there's a lot of them. So got your pen and your paper pads ready. I'm going to be mixing it up here. I'm just going to go through them as close to alphabetical order as I can, rather than going through last week's and then this week's. I'm going to throw them together in one long swoop and, you know, let you know what each one of them are and whether they're staying or going, or if they're new. Alright, the first one's going to be AAU, and this is a new addition. I haven't had AAU on for a while because it's only been quite a downtrend, and the volume really hasn't been what I've been looking for, and it's really, the volume's not quite where I want it to be, but there's a few things that I like about this, so I would think that maybe you just want it on the list to keep it on your radar, because you never know right now. So we're looking at the daily resistance lines. Let me go to the daily trend chart. Notice a couple weeks ago we broke out down here below, and we had a lot of moving averages to work through on light volume. And today we finally got through them all. The last one was my 150 overhead resistance. So we're sitting up here at 409. We've got an increasing volume pattern on the bottom right here. We got a MACD turn up. We're still positive on the Stokes. Our CCI and momentum have turned up, and we still have a good DI setup. Let's go to the resistance lines. We closed right at that resistance line at around 410, 411 today. Went beyond that. So our next stop potentials, you know, we're getting a little toppy here on both the Stokes and the CCI and momentum, but they're both still turning up in the moment, and we still got increased volume, and we just got above all the moving averages today. So that's what this is about. We can go, our next target's like up in the 430s. So that's a 30-cent potential pop, and then beyond that into the mid-4s. Okay, the next one is ABX. That was on the list for 3 weeks, and it's coming off today. It's been on it down here since the 22nd, way down here, and we had a close of 44.76 that day. Today we got a close of 48.72 with a high of 49.07. So lots of opportunity in this 3 weeks. Chart still looks good, but it's bumping into 3 overhead averages on my charts. The 100, the 200, and the 150. And it couldn't get through today. Even though everything still looks good, you know, 3 weeks is enough on this one. I think some of the others have a better opportunity to go a little higher, a little quicker. Doesn't mean you can't keep it on your list. So ABX off the list. You can keep it on your own. Next one. AG. First Majestic Silver. It's been on the list, and it's going to stay on the list. Let's go back to the 22nd. We had a close of 18.25, and today we got a close of 22.20. 12 with a high of 22.33. Lots of opportunity, but we're keeping it on the list because our DIs kind of closed up and now they just opened back up, along with the CCI and the momentum going vertical again, and we got that ADX right under my negative DI getting ready to pop out, maybe an alligator tongue. Stokes started to roll a little bit and they turned back up today. We got through all the moving averages and the resistance today. So, you know, this could be a couple dollar move. Getting up into this area, you can see my lines up there very clearly, I think. We're talking up in the 23s. So, AG. Alright, ANV was on the list, but it's off the list this week for a few reasons. The volume is not picking up. It's like flat. And, you know, our Stokes been up there for a while for this particular stock. Things are turning up. We still got a positive DI, but it's just not one of my favorites right now. It is above all the moving averages. Had a nice candle today. Doesn't mean you can't keep it on your list, but I'm not keeping it on the list. So let's go back to the 22nd. We had a close of 34.12, and we are sitting at 39.45 in the moment. And we had a high today of 40.30. Like $6 of opportunity here. All right. Next one is AU. It had been on the list and it's going to stay on the list. All right, we got a nice DI set up there, vertical. CCI momentum, Stokes looking good, increasing volume. We got a close at the 50 today. It didn't get beyond it, so that's what I'm calling for on this particular one. We want to see it take out that 50-day moving average on the daily decisively. And then we got a nice gap there in the moving averages from, let's see, we're at 43.77, and we could get up into the 44, close to $45 up to the next moving average. So let's go back to the 22nd, and we had a close of 42.67. Got a pullback, went sideways. We got a close today of 43.77 with a high of 44.25. Lots of opportunity. I still think it's got a little bit more in her to go. So AU staying on the list. Also take note, I haven't been hitting this trend chart on these stocks here, but pretty much all of them, we had this downtrend. And we broke out above them like just now, or at least within the last week or two. All right, Ginger. You're welcome. All right, so we're on AU. Next one, we're adding is going to be AUY, Yamaha Gold. Haven't had Yamaha Gold on the chart for a while yet. But a little bit of crazy action going here, and the reason that I'm adding this week, considering the whole move that we missed over the past 2 weeks, unfortunately, but can't pick them all the time. We got to break out above. Yesterday and today, we took out that downtrend line here. And we're getting up. We're probably going to try and retest this high that we got up in the 13s, in the low 13s. 1355. Right now we're sitting at 1321. I think it might want to test that. We got increasing volume. Our DI setup is still going high, but you know, it's getting toppy here. The reason that I'm keeping it, or actually adding it, is because of this weekly chart. And let me tighten up this weekly chart a little bit. There's 160 weeks. Look at that DI setup on that weekly. Got alligator tongue. Just got through the Stokes today. Good, solid, steady volume. Nothing funky going on. And we closed on a resistance line today at 1321. And the next stop on this weekly is in the low 14s. So there's a buck potential there. Still. Alright, so Yamaha Gold, AUY, added to the list. Alright, AUNFF is going off the list. Every once in a while I like to throw in one of these penny stocks, and this was the one. It had been on the list for was it a week? Yeah, just a week. So it made its move. Still looking good, actually. But given that it's a penny stock and we're getting, you know, things are kind of getting up here and the stock been sitting up here for a while and it's flatlining. Volumes are increasing, but not by a lot. This never has had a lot of volume. And, the penny moves on this are not really that large to take the risk. But we did get the move. So on the 6th, we closed at 75 cents. Today we're at 85 cents, and we had a high of 89. Good enough. Probably got another 5 cents in it, maybe 10 cents. All right, next one that was on the list and is going to stay on the list. There's one thing I don't like about AZK on the daily, and I'm keeping it on because of the weekly. So we're looking at the trend chart. It probably wants to work its way up to this top trend line, but it's got to get through the 300, the 100, the 150, and the 200 overhead resistance. But we got through the 50 this week. The DI still look okay. The momentum CCI is turning up. Stokes are still positive. Volume is still decent. But it's the weekly that's keeping it on the list. And on the weekly, we just crossed on the positive DI. Just today, this week. And the CCI and the momentum have just started their trend upwards. Stokes just crossed. Volume is still good. So AZK is staying on the list. And as you can see, it's at $6.16. Let's go back to the 22nd. It closed at $5.76. And we had a high today of $6.31. So it looks like it wants to go up and try to touch the top of that channel somewhere in the upper sixes, like 680, 685. But that, got to get through all those moving averages first. And that could be a little work, maybe not. Hard to say. But she's staying on the list. Next one is EGO, El Dorado Gold. On the 22nd, it closed at 1483. Today, we are sitting at a 1771 close, and we had a high of 1799, pretty much 18 bucks. Came right up and tapped this upper channel line today, and finally got through all the moving averages, and still has good volume in it. Actually, big volume. DI setup good. Momentum, CCI toppy. We're a little toppy here on Ego, but it's staying. And the reason that it's staying is because of the volume, the DI setup, and once again, the weekly chart. We just got a cross on the DIs on the weekly. We got vertical on the CCI. We got above all the moving averages and the 50 on the weekly. Just crossed through the Stokes. Good steady volume on the weekly, and we're only at Wednesday here. Stokes are vertical. So, Ego. Alright, next one is going to be an ad, and that is CDE, Coeur d'Alene. The reason that I'm adding this one is because we got to close at the 200-day moving average today. And down here on the DIs, it's looking like a potential setup for an alligator tongue. And we had increased volume today. Vertical CCI momentum with still some left to go. My only concern is that the Stokes have been hanging out up here for a bit. But looking at the history on the stochastics, sometimes they hang up here for a while. So I think it's going to make a challenge for those resistance lines above, up in the 28, and the 27s and the 28s. And right now we're sitting at 26.40, so there's a potential for a couple bucks here. Alright, next one is going to be EXK. EXK was on the list, and it's going to stay on the lists. On the 22nd, we had a close of 8.55. We're sitting at 10.33. And that close today, the high was 10.40, the close 10.33. We almost got a hammer here with this breakout. Took a few days for it to get through this resistance level up here, and it took it out today. We still got a good DI setup. We've got increasing volume here. Stokes are still positive. Really nothing to complain about on EXK. It's still got some inner. Alright, next one is GPL, Great Panther, Silver, staying on the list. Took a few days for it to get through all those moving averages, got through them. On actually down volume today, let's go back to the 22nd. I was worried about this one. We closed at 354. We didn't actually get upside last week, but We finally got it this week, and we closed at 389, and we had a high of 398. I think it's still got more in it. Let me go to those daily resistance, and the next, resistance I'm looking at, I actually got to add a line here, is around 408. And then close to 430. And one of the reasons I'm keeping it on the list is because I got through all the moving averages, but once again, it's a weekly thing. Nice big candle off the 5-day moving average today. The Stoke line, I just got across on the Stokes down here. Not a decisive one, but it did cross. And I don't like this volume. It's slightly declining on the weekly, but remember, it's Wednesday. So we could end up with, even Steven here on the volume for the weekly. And we just got our CCI and momentum are just starting to make their way back up to the upside here. And our DI is positive on the weekly. So we got some air to fill up here. Alright, next one that was on the list, and it's staying on the list, is GG. Gold Corp. Real nice. Real nice. Look at that DI setup. Got the dental work done, went home. Still trucking along. Let's go to the 22nd. We had a close of 49.51. Today we had a close of 54.34, and we had a high of 55.18. Rock and roll. And it looks like it's still got some upside with increasing volume, beautiful DI. CCI's momentum topping out a little bit here. Stokes still looking good. Good action. Looks like it wants to go retest those highs up in the 56 range. And once again, it's the weekly that I'm checking out. That was the final decision. Look at that alligator tongue on that weekly. Does anybody not see that? Just getting across on the Stokes. Good solid volume. Vertical CCI. And we're approaching an important resistance level on the weekly. And about to take it out. Alright, it's 3:50 and I still got another half dozen to go through. So, let me keep trucking here. GFI, Goldfields. This was on last week and I'm keeping it on the list. We just got a crossover on the Stokes today to the positive side. Didn't have it last week, but I'm sorry, on the DIs we got the crossover, but last week we had the Stoke crossover. And it was just popping through that 21-day moving average, and it looked like it had a space to fill up here to the 50, and it did. Finally today it got through the 50, ran into a little resistance at the 200-day moving average overhead. So back on the 6th, we had a close of 1484. Today we are sitting at A 1544 close with a 1565 high. And it's still got some more in it. Well, we don't get many weeks like this. Very nice. Next one was not on the list, and I'm going to add, and that's going to be Harmony. Look at that DI setup. We're just getting that alligator tongue today. On the way to the dentist office. Vertical CCI and momentum. Good stoke. Increasing volume. Got through all the moving averages today. And took out a resistance level today from back in early June, which was back here. Looks like it wants to make a run up to the high 14s and up to the low 15s. And I got to add a line here. It wants to go up there and retest these highs somewhere up around, let's just say 1560, 1561. Also, we got a trend line breakout to the upside. Here's the trend line. Just got above it for the past 2 days. Yesterday it took out the 50. Today it took out that overhead 85. That was it. And the resistance. Very nice. Next one is going to be IAG. Almost a similar chart. Look at that DI setup. Look at that increasing volume. Look at the CCI and the momentum. Stokes are positive. Above all the moving averages. Yesterday we took out the trend line. Today we took out the resistance level here. Wasn't on the list. It's being added to the list. Alright, next one's going to be JAG. J-A-G. Haven't had JAG on the list for a while, but I'm adding it to the list because I like that DI setup. Going to the dentist. Taking out the moving averages. And notice on this trend line going all the way back here to November of 2010, it just took it out today. Got resistance at the 150-day moving average overhead. Looks like it wants to go to the 200-day moving average, which is another 40 cents away. So JAG. 5 more to go, folks. I think there's somebody in this room that's going to like to see MDW on the list. Look at that DI setup. Look at the increasing volume. Just got the cross on the Stokes a couple of days ago down here. 3 days ago. Was not on the list. It's being added to the list. But what I like most about this one, I mean the daily looks great for now. But let's go to the weekly on this. Just crossed the Stokes on the weekly. Vertical CCI momentum. DI, nice. But short term, it looks a little overbought, but still real positive. And the weekly just kind of slams it like, yeah, it's got some more to go. So MDW. Next one that was on the list is going to stay on the list is New Gold. Let's go down to the 22nd. We had to close at 995. Today we closed at 1120 and we had a high of 1144. Look at that DI setup. Just that ADX is just under the negative DI, getting ready to pop out. Stokes good, increasing volume over the past week and a half. Looking like it wants to retest its highs up here, up into the 11s, up around 12 bucks. Is that another line up here? 1194, 1195-ish. And look at that resistance line it took out today. On a gap up, of all things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of just sideways. All right, next one. SLW was on the list, going to stay on the list. Got above all the moving averages today, but closed on the 100-day moving average. I think it's going to take it out. Increasing volume. Nice gap up today. Good DIs, good CCI momentum. Stokes are still positive. Let's go back to the 22nd. We had a close of 33.01. Oh, I'm sorry. 32.79 was the 22nd. And today we're sitting at 38.50 with a high of 38.68 and just got above the moving averages. Actually, we took out that 100, but the 100 is sitting at 38.26. So yeah, we did. We closed above the 100-day moving average. We got a breakout. See what it does tomorrow. Next one is going to be SVM. Almost a similar chart. Silver Corp. Let's go down to the 22nd. We had a close of 933. Today we're sitting at 1106 with a high of 1132. DI still look good, maybe slightly sloppy a little bit, so it's not one of my super favorites. But I still think it's got some in it because of the good steady volume, the good DI setup. We got to turn up on the momentum in the CCI. Stokes are still positive, and we have not taken out the 200-day moving average, which we are right now challenging. And those moving averages here, they're not spread far apart. They're very tight. I got the 200 around 1143, and the 85 around 1169, and the 50. I'm sorry, the 100 around 1189, 1190. So, you know, in this dollar, it's got to get above 1190 for it to really take off and retest the all-time highs, but it ain't too bad. And on the weekly, we just got a crossover on the Stokes. And our CCI has actually just began to turn up to the upside with a positive DI setup in good volume. All right, here was the sucker that is going to get tossed. And you want to know why it crashed? Because news came out a couple days ago. They got problems. Fundamentals ain't working out for this company right now. But they had it going. They had it going on. SWC, Stillwater Mining. And I had that on for a couple weeks. Back on the 22nd, we had a close of 2084. And we had a high on the 7th of July of 2404. So there was lots of opportunity before this thing get whacked. Of course, it's not staying on the list. It's off the list. See ya. There's one that I missed. In the alphabet, it was NSU, Nevson Resources. It's coming off the list. It did break out. It's been on the list since the 22nd. We had a close of 620. Today we're sitting at 650. I'm just bored with it. I don't like the DI setup. The volume's just looking shaky. Momentum CCI is rolling over. Ain't happening. But it did have some opportunity there, not much. So it's gone. It's out. Alright, we got two more that are going to be new additions. And that's going to be RIC. Look at that. Look at that DI setup. We got the ADX just coming under the negative DI, getting ready to pop out. Increasing volume. Good Stokes. Vertical CCI momentum. Broke out of that resistance today. Holding the 5-day moving average. We got to close at 837 today with a high of 837. Very nice. I think we're going to see some action in Richmont Mines. Here's our resistance lines. We're sitting at 837. Looks like the next stop is going to be in the 870s. We're at 880. We get through that, there ain't much between there and 9, up in the 9s. And last is going to be UXG. US Gold is being added to the list. Once again, we got a DI set up here where that ADX is just starting to come out underneath the negative DI to pop out. Go to the dentist for some dental work. We got a vertical CCI and a momentum. Good Stoke action. Steady to increasing volume. I don't like the number. It's 666 is the close today. Maybe I'm going to change my mind. But we've got 200-day overhead resistance up in the 680s. We get through the 680s. We got an air gap here up into the 7s. Up into the 730 area. We take out 730. Who knows? But US Gold. And the weekly is not the perfect setup, but there's something going on here. We're just getting ready to cross the Stokes, and our CCI momentum had just bottomed out and are starting to turn up. And we haven't got a crossover on the DI yet to the positive side. But we did close above the 50-day moving average on the weekly today. So let me go back to that daily. And the other thing of note is, that it's got this trend line, and we got above that last week. And we got above that 50 today on the daily, so looks like it's got some in it. That is it, folks. I am all talked out. But if you got something you want me to look at, I'll do some crystal balls, but right now I'm gonna shut down the recording. Alright, thank you all for attending. Be careful trading out there tomorrow.